Part 108. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1071. Chapter 1071 The Gap in Acting Classes. The boy said, "The chief can't abuse people like this, right?" He didn't know Xiaoling's background, and he didn't like girls who were arrogant and domineering. On the contrary, Li Bingman's quietness made him happy. After thinking about it, he said, "Let's do this. You give me the lunch box, and I'll step in and help you get the meal. Then you can deliver it to your chief. How about the two of us having lunch together?" Li Bingman's eyes flashed with joy. "Really? How can that be so embarrassing?" "What's the point of being embarrassed?" the boy said. "Here, give it to me." He is a fourth-grade student with great talent, and he may be able to debut in half a year. He has no friends in the entertainment industry. If he can catch up with the Li sisters at this juncture, his career path will be much smoother. He wanted to take care of Li Bingman and took the lunch box diligently. Li Bingman warned him, "The porcelain bowl with the light green pattern is for rice, and the one with the same color and white background next to it is for soup. Xiaoling likes thicker soup, but doesn't like minced meat. Remember," and the aunt who made the soup told me that the two larger bowls are for serving vegetables, one for meat and two for vegetables, and they should be arranged in a good shape, so she won't eat them if they look ugly." The boy was stunned for a while. "She is so particular." Li Bingman showed a wry smile again. "Chief. None of the other chiefs are like her," the boy said, defending Li Bingman. "Where is your lunch box? I'll fill it for you." Li Bingman shook her head. "I didn't bring it." Xiaoling's lunch box was a complete set, carried in a beautiful wooden box. Although it was not fragmented, it was very heavy. With this set of tableware, it was impossible to bring anything else. The boy frowned. "You are arrogant and domineering. Forget it, I will take you out to eat later." After saying that, he turned around and jumped in line for Li Bingman. Li Bingman looked at his back with a faint smile on her lips. "That's right, even if she succumbs to Xiaoling, it will only be temporary. It's still unclear who will be stronger between the two in the future. She just wanted to spread Xiaoling's arrogant and domineering reputation quietly, not only to make Xiaoling look bad, but also to highlight her own cultivation and temperament. Killing two birds with one stone, why not?" The boy carried Xiaoling's set of utensils and jumped to the front of the queue. "Hey, don't jump in line!" From behind, several students in line shouted, "Get out, get out!" The boy shook the tableware in his hand. "I don't have eyes. I'm serving food to the chief of the first grade." Suddenly, the students didn't dare to stop him. Even if the chief has such privileges, it doesn't matter if he bullies others. If he bullies you, there's nothing to do with him. However, this first-year chief is so arrogant. Other chiefs would not use this privilege even if they had the privilege of jumping in line. After all, since there are already so many people willing to work for themselves, why bother to jump in line and cause public outrage? Only Xiaoling was tricked by Li Bingman and that boy. They were the ones who jumped in line, but all the hatred points fell on her. No wonder people say that the freshman chief named Xiaoling is arrogant. Someone behind the team whispered. "Isn't it?" someone else murmured. "What's so great about it? Who knows if I can get the top spot next school year? It will be a disaster if she can't become the chief. She has offended so many people, and she will definitely look good when the time comes." That's right. Xiaoling was completely oblivious to these discussions. As long as her daily meal was delivered in time and there were people around to serve and support her, she would be satisfied. She would not even think about things that were too complicated. As the days passed, everyone around her greeted her with a smile. Occasionally she met one or two ignorant people, but she didn't need to take action. Naturally, there were other people who wanted to please her and helped her get rid of them. She lived her life very comfortable. The only thing that is not very comfortable is the acting class. Her singing and dancing skills are both very good, and she can even get in a when dancing with her eyes closed. She has long been praised and set as a role model by teachers. Teachers in the singing and dancing system all smile when they see her. But what about acting classes? On the contrary, her singing and dancing performances are as amazing as her acting skills are. According to the acting class teacher, Xiaoling, your acting skills are not as good as those of a random person in the film and television city, and you are still dreaming of making a debut. Don't tell people when you go out in the future that I taught you. Xiaoling was dejected and depressed after being trained by her teacher. She doesn't know why, but her acting skills just can't improve. No matter how much time she spends practicing, she still doesn't act like anything, but she just can't get into the role. Xiahua comforted her and said that it was because her mind was too simple and she couldn't figure out the complex nature of human nature that she didn't perform well, but she didn't feel comforted. This day, I was scolded by the teacher again. Xiaoling, go and stand aside and take a good look at how others are acting. If this continues, we will have to prepare a supporting role just for you in the final performance. The teacher looked disgusted. Look at Li Bingman. When I entered school, I had no foundation in acting, but now I am counting on her to be the heroine in the final performance. Come on, Li Bingman. She turned her head, her voice became much kinder. Come here and play this part again. Let's show it to everyone. Act slowly and take care of Xiaoling's understanding. Li Bingman glanced at Xiaoling with some apprehension. The acting teacher frowned. What are you looking at? She is your chief, but she is a scumbag in my class. Li Bingman, don't be afraid, you can act how you want. With her performance in this acting class, next semester the position of chief will definitely be lost. The emperor's teacher has always been strict and merciless in his words. Xiaoling's face turned blue and white, and she finally managed to hold back her anger. Li Bingman was still looking at her, hesitantly. Miss Xiaoling, You go and act, Xiaoling said stiffly. Li Bingman just left. From an angle that Xiaoling couldn't see, a proud smile appeared on the corner of her lips. Humph, Xiaoling, so what if you have Pei Xian's support? Mud can never hold up the wall. Let's see how arrogant you are when the position of chief changes hands next semester. She was in a happy mood and gave full play to her acting skills, perfectly interpreting the passage taught by her teacher, which aroused waves of exclamations from the audience. Xiaoling felt confused and depressed. She couldn't take it in when she watched Li Bingman's performance on the stage. But she couldn't blame Li Bingman. Who said her skills were inferior to others? He was able to outdo her in an upright manner, and there was no conspiracy this time. She was scolded by the teacher because she asked for it. As she thought about it, she became even more depressed. At the end of the class, she didn't even listen to what the teacher said. Only the teacher's words echoed in her ears over and over again. Act slowly, take care of Xiaoling's understanding. Has the gap between her and her classmates widened to this extent? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1072. Chapter 1072. The First Snow. The bell rings for the end of get out of class. People in the classroom dispersed one after another, and before long, laughter could be heard in the corridor. Xiahua took Xiaoling's backpack, walked up to her, and stretched out her hand to hold her hand. Come on, Xiaoling, it's snowing outside. It's the first snow this year, it's beautiful. Come out with me to see it. Xiaoling was not in the mood and shook her hand off. Let's go. Hey, don't you see? She looked at Xiaoling's face in the middle of her words and changed her words wisely. Then I'll go first. If you need anything, just call me. I didn't get good grades in the acting class. The good is only temporary. Before she finished speaking, Xiaoling glared at her. Xiahua was frightened and her heart skipped a beat. Although they were friends, Xiaoling seemed to have become more and more aggressive since she became the freshman chief. Forget it, she was in a bad mood, so it was better not to get into trouble with her. Xiahua walked away quietly. Sometimes she felt as if she was far away from Xiaoling, and she couldn't express what was in her heart. Maybe it was because the level of the two of them was too far apart. Xiaoling is so beautiful, can sing and dance so well, and has a good family background. Everyone says that she will become a popular singer in the future. Looking back at Xiahua herself, it's not certain whether I can make a debut. Forget it, let's go play with Kikai, Xiahua thought as she walked. Kikai was similar to her, both were working hard for their debut. They had some small dreams, and they would encourage, support and comfort each other. The most important thing, Kikai wouldn't glare at her like Xiaoling. Although Xiao Ayato is good, sometimes he is too arrogant. They are not on the same level, so they cannot become particularly close best friends after all. Kikai, wait for me. Xiahua caught up with Kikai in the corridor, and the two quickly walked away laughing. Xiaoling stayed in the classroom for a while, and after everyone dispersed, she returned alone to the small open space where the teacher had just taught, and stretched out her hand like Li Bingman in her memory. Don't go, don't leave me, she recited the lines, if you dare to step out of this door, I will detonate a bomb and kill both of you. Still very stiff. She didn't need anyone to guide her, and she knew that her acting was not good at all. No matter how many times she tried, she could never get into the mood and couldn't find the feeling that an actor should have. She was competing with herself, and she had been practicing it repeatedly for who knows how long. The cell phone rings. She picked up. Hello. From the other end of the phone, Pei Xian's warm low voice came, Xiaoling, what are you doing? It's snowing. Xiaoling's nose suddenly felt sore. For some reason, she wanted to cry so much when she heard this man's voice. Brother Pei. She called softly, her voice full of grievances. Pei Xian stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of the emperor's chairman's office. Outside the window, there were falling snowflakes. Hearing the voice of the little girl about to cry on the phone, he frowned unnoticeably. What's wrong? Who bullied you? Whoever dares to bully his baby will be good looking. No. Xiaoling sniffed quickly to hold back her tears. At the beginning of her enrollment, when she was robbed of her dormitory, her position as monitor, and her dancing shoes were filled with nails, she could indeed complain to Pei Xian without restraint and angrily threaten to take revenge, but what about this time? It's her own acting skills that are inferior to others, who can she take revenge on? When she thought of the teacher's cynicism and the strange looks in her classmates' eyes every time she took an acting class, she wanted to cry again. Why couldn't she perform well no matter how hard she tried? No, you're hiding something from me, Pei Xian said on the phone as he strode out. He paused at the secretary's desk and gestured to the secretary on duty to prepare the car. Tell me what happened. Xiaoling shook her head, so embarrassed. She didn't want to say. Xiaoling. Pei Xian's tone increased slightly. Xiaoling was about to cry again. Am I stupid? I can't do anything well. Finally she couldn't help it and told him everything that happened in the acting class recently. Brother Pei, I'm so scared. What if I never learn acting well? Will you be disappointed? This is what she fears the most, fearing that he will no longer like her. Pei Xian calmly breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be such a trivial matter. This silly girl really could cry about anything. He was relieved when he heard that she was not bullied. Accompanied by his secretary, he walked to the garage. As he walked, he comforted her warmly. How could I be disappointed? What does it matter if you can't learn well? The teacher must be too harsh on you. I asked the principal to remove her. Don't, Xiaoling said quickly, the teacher taught me very well, but I am stupid. I'm about to cry again. Pei Xian felt sorry for her crying the most, and repeatedly coaxed her, Okay, I won't withdraw. Don't cry, it's no big deal. He stopped in front of the Rolls-Royce in the underground garage and gestured to the waiting driver. Go to training camp. While driving to the training camp, he comforted the little girl with gentle words on the phone. Xiaoling stood alone in the classroom. It was getting dark. She didn't turn on the light, but she saw the street lights outside the window reflecting the snowy light, which was as beautiful as a dream on earth. Pei Xian's gentle words echoed in her ears, and the familiar, slightly hoarse voice made her feel at ease. Unknowingly, her mood didn't seem so bad anymore. Have you eaten? Pei Xian asked her on the phone. Not yet, Xiaoling said, I stayed in the classroom for a while longer, so the food must have gotten cold. Then don't eat in the canteen. Pei Xian's voice was low and gentle. What do you want to eat? Xiaoling was made to laugh by him. Can you conjure up whatever I want to eat? Brother Pei, where are you now? What did you have for dinner? You guess. How could I guess? You turn around. What did I turn around for? Can you do magic? You. Xiaoling's words were stuck in her throat, and the moment she turned around, she froze. I saw Pei Xian's tall figure standing at the door of the classroom at some point, holding a mobile phone in one hand, staring at her deeply against the light. Behind him was the dim light of the street lights and the snowflakes flying all over the sky, making him look like a emerging from the snow, mysterious and powerful. After a long while, she murmured, Brother Pei. I didn't eat either. He hung up the phone, walked to her in a few steps, lowered his head and held her hand. In such a cold weather, let's go have a barbecue. I heard that there is a good barbecue club in the north of the city. It is semi-open. You can see beautiful snow scenery from the garden. Her nose started to feel sore again, and she was speechless, so she nodded vigorously. He held her hand and walked out step by step along the half-dark corridor. From time to time, the wind and snow came in and fell on their faces and bodies. Along the way, the two of them were silent and said nothing. However, as long as he was by her side, she had nothing to fear anymore. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1073. Chapter 1073 Barbecuing in the Snow. The barbecue club is not far from the training camp, just a 10-minute drive away. The driver got out of the car first, held up an umbrella, and opened the backseat door. Pei Xian also got out of the car and helped Xiaoling into the club. The private room booked in advance is on the first floor. It is the most quiet and comfortable room in the entire barbecue club. You can see the beautiful snow scenery in the semi-open environment. There are wooden fences on the left and right to block the wind and snow. The charcoal fire in the barbecue grill was burning red. The two of them ordered a lot of food, and Pei Xian slowly baked it for her. His technique was unfamiliar and the roasting was a little uneven. He took a bite first and frowned a little. Isn't it delicious? Xiaoling raised her face and looked at him. Some of them are raw, he said. I asked the waiter to grill them. No, she stopped him. That's good, don't let anyone bother us. He was stunned for a moment, and his eyes became gentler in the depths of his eyes. Okay, he lowered his head and turned over the strings of barbecue more carefully, imitating the appearance of the waiters he remembered when eating barbecue, sprinkling Sichuan peppercorns, and salt. She had never baked before, but she gradually became interested and started helping out. The two of them finally cooked a skewer of barbecued meat. This time, it was not cooked and one side was a little burnt. Xiaoling took a bite and it was so hot that she hissed and said inarticulately, "It's delicious." Really, he smiled, not having much confidence in his craftsmanship. He took the bunch of roe deer meat from her hand and carefully cut off the burnt part with a knife. Don't eat the burnt ones, it's not good for your health. Everything you bake is delicious, she frowned. He was in a good mood and grilled mutton skewers and chicken hearts for her. Gradually he mastered the heat, and the aroma gradually emerged from the oily meat and spread on the snow. While she was eating, she was feeding him. After a while, both of them were somewhat full. He ordered a cup of fruit vinegar for her, and she drank it in small sips, leaning on his shoulder to eat. A pair of bright eyes, a little tired after the meal, looked at the flying snowflakes in the small garden, and the long eyelashes fluttered like butterflies. He asked gently, "Are you sleepy?" A bit. Her voice was very soft, and she rubbed her shoulder. He put his arm around her shoulders and held her in his arms. He smelled the subtle body fragrance on her body, mixed with the faint smell of barbecue, which was very charming. "Go home and sleep tonight, and let the driver take you there tomorrow morning. You go back to training camp." She shook her head and said in a confused voice, "No, it's easy for others to find me sneaking out. As long as I am here, what are you afraid of? I don't want people to know that you adopted me." Peizian said nothing. He stretched out his hand to smooth her hair and plucked away the scattered snowflakes. After a long time, he said, "Apply for exemption from the acting class." Huh, she was slightly surprised and raised her head to look at him. "I never thought about asking you to do the decathlon. It's enough that you sing so well. It doesn't matter whether you have acting skills or not. The big deal is that you will only develop into the singing world in the future." She blushed slightly as she thought of her poor performance in class. She said, "Is it really okay not to learn acting now? I've asked about exempted courses. Generally, you can't apply until the second grade. The teaching system of the Emperor training camp is very mature, and the first grade is to lay the foundation. At that time, in principle, students were not allowed to take exemptions. Every course had to be taken. When students understood their direction in the second year, they could apply for exemptions. The conditions for applying for exemption are also very strict. For example, the total score of 10 courses is 1,000 points. Only when the total score reaches 600 points can you advance to the next grade. Those who fail to reach 600 points will be dropped out. After one of the courses is exempted, it becomes 9 courses. The full score is 900 points in total, and the standard score is still 600 points, so the difficulty increases invisibly. Xiaoling's singing and dancing skills are excellent, her physical fitness and other courses are only above average, and her cultural classes are a bit miserable, and she is still in the supplementary stage. Under such circumstances, the burden on her to be exempted from taking an acting class is still quite heavy. Peizian also had a general understanding of the situation in the training camp. It doesn't matter. You have dolphin sound. You can apply for an exception and spend more time on singing. Others can't say anything. As for the total score, I believe you are fine. Isn't it just 600 points? Even if she didn't achieve it, it would be easy for him to do it. Of course, don't tell her this last sentence. Xiaoling hesitated. Let me think about it. She was still worried that her privilege would reveal her identity. Peizian lowered his head and grilled another skewer of meat for her. The two of them ate while admiring the snow. Late at night, when the snow stopped and a few stars appeared in the night sky, they got up and left. Peizian sent her back to the training camp. The black Rolls-Royce was parked at the entrance of the deserted training camp, as if it wanted to blend into the night. "I'm leaving, brother." Pei Xiaoling got out of the car, turned around and smiled and waved to Peizian in the back seat. Peizian watched her walking towards the door step by step. Suddenly, he stopped her and said, "Xiaoling." Huh, she turned back slightly. In the night, under the starry sky, the backseat door of the black Rolls-Royce opened, and a tall man stepped out of the car, holding a long scarf in his hand and walked up to her. "I just asked the housekeeper to bring it. I almost forgot. He wrapped the scarf in his hand around her neck little by little. It's cold, don't catch a cold. She stood there, motionless, and allowed him to surround her. The two of them were very close, and she could smell the faint scent of him that was unique to men. She felt the soft touch of the delicate cashmere scarf rubbing her cheek, like a feather gently scratching through her heart, tickling her. She suddenly felt a little embarrassed, and she didn't know why, but she blushed slightly. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at him. When he surrounded her, she quickly turned around and ran away. Zion stood there for a long time, watching her figure disappear into the depths of the training camp. Sporadically, it started to snow again. A black umbrella moved silently above Zion's head to block the snowflakes for him. Is everything done? Zion asked without looking back. It's all done, it was Driver Lee's voice. Mr. Chu sent a trustworthy paparazzi over and secretly took photos of you and the lady. By tomorrow, your relationship with her will be covered in the news. Zion turned around and got into the car. So what if she always wanted to hide her identity? She was his belongings, and he couldn't bear to see others trample her like dirt. Only by telling the world, would no one who was short-sighted shout and scold her at will. In the night, Rolls-Royce is like a silent ghost, driving silently into the distance. Xiaoling had a good sleep in the dormitory. She was probably too sleepy and missed the alarm clock. When she woke up, it was already 10 a.m. She said oops and was shocked. The acting class had already started and she was going to be late. I overslept. There are 2 more updates tonight. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1074. Chapter 1074. Paparazzi photos. Jumped out of bed, washed and dressed as quickly as possible, and ran to the acting classroom. The figure of a girl flying around the campus is like a gust of wind, facing the sun, with her long hair and skirt flying. Along the way, many people turned to look at her, their eyes complicated, and made way for her. A senior riding a bicycle passed by. He stopped the car in front of her and asked, "Are you the first-year Chief Xiaoling? Junior girl, where are you going in such a hurry? Come on, I'll take you." Xiaoling secretly shouted Lucky and jumped into the back seat of the car. Performance classroom in the second teaching building. Thank you, senior. The handsome boy pedaled his bicycle and rode towards the second teaching building. Soon he was downstairs. The boy stopped the bicycle with his foot and picked up her backpack with one hand. "Let's go, I'll take you up." The two of them ran wildly and soon arrived at the door of the interpretation classroom. The big boy returned the backpack to Xiaoling. "My name is Chen Peng. I am in the 3rd grade. If you want to thank me, please treat me to dinner tonight," he said and winked at her handsomely. Xiaoling smiled. Okay. She took the backpack. She was a little surprised. The competition in the Emperor's training camp was fierce, and most people were too late to protect themselves. How could they meddle in other people's business? Even though she was the chief freshman and was highly regarded by her classmates, she had never met an upperclassman she had never met before to imitate Lei Feng and be a good person. Perhaps she is really lucky today? I hope this good luck can continue. She took a deep breath and opened the door of the acting classroom. "I'm sorry, I'm late." Acting class has always been her weakness, and the teacher didn't like her. Now she is 10 years late. For a few minutes, I was really worried that the teacher would chop her up alive. In the interpretation class, the teacher was explaining the key points of improvisation, and the trainees asked questions one after another, and the atmosphere was very lively. As she opened the door, the entire classroom fell silent, and everyone looked at her. Xiaoling feels uncomfortable being looked at by everyone. Why? Is there any flowers on her face? "I'm sorry," she said again. The acting teacher was silent for a moment, and then he smiled and said, it's okay, There's nothing to be sorry for. Student Xiaoling, just come. Go sit over there and I'll repeat what I just said. Xiaoling was frightened. Why was the acting teacher so polite? If this were normal, she, a bad student, would be skinned alive if she was late for so long. She walked hesitantly into the classroom when she heard a girl she was not familiar with greeting her. Xiaoling, please sit over here. This side is by the window. The air is better. Sit here, I am in the middle, you can best see what the teacher is saying. Sit here, sit here. For a time, many students asked her to sit over. Xiaoling was even more frightened. What happened to them? In the end, she sat down in the seat Xiahua and the others had occupied for her and put down her bag. Xiaoling, drink tea. Xiahua handed her a cup of still warm tea. Xiaoling took the opportunity to ask in a low voice, what's wrong with everyone? It turns out that you are so powerful, we didn't know until now. Xiaoling was confused and wanted to ask something else, but the teacher had already started teaching. She had no choice but to hold back her doubts and listen attentively. Today's teacher seemed to take special care of her. He told the other students what he had just said from beginning to end again, and the speed was very slow, for fear that she would not understand. At the end of a class, I could originally talk about 5 key points, but now I only talk about 2. Strangely, the other trainees didn't complain at all. After class, many people did not leave, but gathered around to talk to Xiaoling and get close to her. Xiaoling feels like she hasn't woken up yet. She finally couldn't stand the weird atmosphere anymore, so she took Xiahua's hand and walked out, to a secluded corner, and asked, what's going on, everyone? Why do I feel so weird? Don't you know yet? Xiahua's eyes widened. Xiaoling, are you the girl adopted by the chairman? It's been spread all over the news, and there are photos of you. That's why everyone treats you like that. How could it be? Xiaoling was shocked and blurted out, I even told Brother Pei not to tell anyone. Sure enough, it's you. Xiahua understood. No wonder this girl has been unwilling to tell her identity and origin. No wonder she is so proud, self-centered, and often does not take other people's feelings into account. It turns out that she and everyone really not on the same level, she is the real rich lady. Xiahua's mood is a bit complicated. Where's the news? Show it to me, Xiaoling said eagerly. Xiahua turned on her mobile phone and showed her online news and pictures. Xiaoling grabbed her phone, and the more she looked at it, the more frightened she became. The photo clearly showed the scene when she and Pei Ziyan went to have a barbecue last night. He held her hand and left at the school gate. On the way back, he gave her a hand under the starlight. Wrap the scarf round and round. The man is as tall as a god, and the woman is so beautiful. They look very harmonious in the photo, like a match made in heaven. Although it was a candid photo, her and Pei Ziyan's faces were very clear. There is a caption next to the photo, which briefly introduces her relationship with Pei Ziyan, and claims that she is Pei Ziyan's favorite girl, and that the man loves her far more than his cousin. It's true. She murmured, holding her phone, the paparazzi are so annoying. This is great, everything has been exposed, how can she live a peaceful life in the training camp? She left Xiahua and went to call Pei Ziyan. Hey, Brother Pei, we went out for dinner last night and were photographed by the paparazzi. I know, the voice on the other end of the phone was calm, I will punish that paparazzi. But what should I do? She was very anxious. She was more concerned about the exposure of her identity than punishing the paparazzi. I asked why everyone is so nice to me all of a sudden. It turns out they all know who I am. A faint smile flashed in Pei Ziyan's eyes, but his voice was low and seemed a little heavy. I am also surprised that such a thing happened, but since so many people know about it, there is no way to hide it anymore. Xiaoling, accept the reality, if you really feel troubled, come back and study. I don't want to go to day school. She was depressed and hung up the phone. What, I have worked hard for so long, but in the end I still fell short. The paparazzi are so annoying. She was very unhappy, but there was nothing she could do about it. Just like Brother Pei said, so many people knew about it, so what else could she do? I have to adapt to this kind of life. In the following days, she really tried hard to adapt to this life of being in the spotlight. The identity of the most beloved little girl adopted by Pei Zion is much easier to use than the head teacher of any school year. Not only does she have a geometric number of people to please her, but even the teacher's attitude towards her in class has changed. A 180-degree turn. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1075. Chapter 1075 Paris, Paris. The acting class teacher who never looked at her in the past is now taking great care of her. During class, I broke down the main points one by one and lectured them, lest she wouldn't understand. And when she performed terribly, she never criticized her, only encouraged her to make progress and be much better than last time, just like a kind mother. However, what followed was that the progress of the whole class was dragged down by her alone. When Xiaoling passed by the dressing room, she heard two trainees complaining softly, "Xiaoling. Who is she? She just relies on the support of the chairman behind her. What does it matter if she can't learn acting skills? Anyway, there will be a chairman in the future. Keep it up, but what about us? Our progress has been slowed down by her. When will we be able to make our debut if this continues? That is, how should those who are interested in performing arts live?" There were many complaints later, but Xiaoling did not listen. She felt so guilty that she had never noticed it before. It turned out that she was dragging down the whole class alone. The classmates all behaved generously and considerately in front of her, and for the first time she discovered that they had strong opinions behind their backs. She doesn't want to go on like this. On the same day, she went to the academic affairs office and told the school that she wanted to be exempted from performing arts classes. Her acting performance was really poor. Although the teacher did not dare to directly say that she was not the material, she felt that no matter how hard she tried, she could not make it as an actor. Since Pei Zion also wanted her to concentrate on being a singer, it would be a matter of time before she gave up acting. Although she was only in the first year and was not exempted from the exemption, her background was well known to everyone now. Of course, the Academic Affairs Office did not dare to embarrass her and quickly completed the exemption procedure for her. She also became the first person in the history of the Emperor's training camp to obtain exemption qualifications in her first year. From then on, she put a lot of energy into singing and dancing. Her singing talent is astonishing, and every song is amazing. She also took minor musical instrument lessons, composition classes, etc., and soon became the best singer in the entire training camp. She can be read. This is the consensus of everyone. The days pass day by day, and the years flow like water. She has transformed from a 12 or 13-year-old girl who just entered the training camp to a 16-year-old girl, who is stunningly beautiful and looks back with a charming smile. Now, the entire training camp is hers. The teacher's praise and the admiration of her classmates make her like a duck in water. Even the reporters who come to visit the camp have repeatedly reported that she will be a blockbuster when she debuts. She doesn't know when she will make her debut. Allow everything to Pei Zion's arrangements. In recent years, Pei Zion has become busier and busier. Sometimes he cannot be seen for a month or two, and the only news about him is through newspapers and magazines. His authority grew stronger, and people became more and more awed when they mentioned his name. Only she, as always, regarded him as the gentle brother Pei who would tie a scarf for her on a snowy night, and became closer to him. She went home during the summer vacation. Pei Zion was not at home, and the housekeeper and Joe's mother greeted her. Joe's mother carried her box into the room and made delicious strawberry ice cream for her. My husband is going to Paris these days to discuss a project and said he would try to come back next week. Miss, you have a good rest first. My husband asked me to change it for you. I got a new bedding, which is white goose down from a partner last time. I heard it's very good. Xiaoling smiled and said yes. She asked, where is Xiao? How is the situation? Miss Xiaoyu's operation was successful. She will be able to return to China after a while of rest. She said that she misses you very much and will bring you a gift when she returns to China. Zhou Ma thought for a while and then told her, Miss Xiaoyu is a little bored in the hospital. She is close to Paris, so she rushed to see her husband while he was in Paris this time. Huh, Xiaoling paused slightly while eating the ice cream. Why didn't she tell me? I think it's because you are busy with schoolwork and I don't want you to worry. What nonsense! Xiaoling was a little unhappy and put down the small silver spoon. She just had the surgery 2 months ago and is still in the observation and recuperation stage. Why are you running around with nothing? Mom Joe, please bring the phone. I want to ask her to go back to the hospital to rest. Really, when can Brother Pei not be able to see her? Ma Joe smiled bitterly. I'm afraid this is the reason why Miss Xiaoyu didn't want to tell her. Over the years, Miss Xiaoling didn't notice it herself, but Joe's mother vaguely felt that the two young ladies were alienated. She advised Xiaoling, Miss, aren't you just selling me? Miss Xiaoyu has told me not to tell you, so just pretend you don't know about it, okay? Xiaoling was still unhappy. After a long while, she snorted and put down the ice cream. I won't eat, I have no appetite. After a while, she asked Joe's mother, Xiaoyu has already met Brother Pei in Paris? What have they been doing these days? Has Brother Pei taken her shopping around? She is not in good health and can't bear it. Joe Ma smiled and said, how can you do that? Sir, he knows that you feel sorry for Miss Xiaoyu, so why would you lead her around? He is so busy at work, and spends most of his time with his servants. At most, he only spends time with her at night. Let's have dinner together, Miss Xiaoyu. Xiaoling felt more at ease now. He was unhappy again. Xiao is really serious, can't he just go back to the hospital and lie down? Joe's mother said, she is a young girl. She will be bored if she stays in the hospital for many years. Xiaoling glared at Joe's mother lightly. She has no one to play with in Paris, so she's going to be bored. After thinking about it, she got up from the sofa and said, I'll call Brother Pei and go to Paris to find him. Anyway, I'm on vacation, so I can keep Xiao company. Mother Joe, help me pack my luggage. The next evening, she appeared at the hotel where Pei Xian and his party were staying in Paris. When Xiaoyu saw her, a surprised smile appeared on her face with a hint of sickliness. Sister, why are you here? I haven't seen you for a long time, I'm so happy. Xiaoling was very happy to see her, but she still scolded her, it's my turn to ask you, why are you here? You are running around before you are well. What if something happens? Xiaoyu's expression darkened, I'm sorry. With his head lowered, he looked weak and pitiful, as if he had been greatly wronged. On the side, Chu Chen and others tried to smooth things over. Xiaoyu is also bored. Xiaoling, yesterday she heard that you were coming, and she was very happy. She read the weather forecast several times and was worried that it would rain on you. The driver just went to pick you up. At that time, she also told the driver to bring an extra coat, just in case you got cold. Xiaoling's face looked better now. Chu Chen smiled again, come with me, the boss has arranged a room for you, right next to him, with a big bathtub and floor-to-ceiling windows. That room was originally occupied by Xiaoyu, but when he heard that she was coming, Pei Xian put it in. Xiaoyu arranged to go somewhere else and gave her the room closest to her. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1076. Chapter 1076, Stunning Beauty in the World. The room is indeed very large, with faint incense burning in the quiet space, and the soft carpet feels so comfortable that your feet feel like you are sinking. After pushing aside the layers of beaded and jade curtains, Xiaoling packed her luggage and put on clean clothes. The latest style of the season's light silk shirt with dark patterns on a white background makes her look even more graceful and exquisite when worn on her body. The back of her neck is as white as jade, and her slim waistline is breathtakingly beautiful under the blurred crystal light. The door was pushed open silently. Xiaoyu looked at her sister jealously. After not seeing her for a long time, she became even more beautiful. The youthfulness of the little girl had faded away, and was replaced by a kind of elegance that bloomed under the carvings of the years and attracted the attention of countless people. How can you do this? Xiaoyu felt as if 100 ants were gnawing at her heart, making even her breathing painful. Since she can remember, her appearance has always been so swollen and ugly due to the pain and suffering. Whenever people around her praise her sister for her beauty and look at her sister with sympathy, she wants to cover her ears, gouge out their eyes, and tear them apart. The face of a rotten sister. She had been working so hard to cooperate with the treatment, and the disease was finally cured. The swelling on her face faded, and she looked beautiful. However, compared with the sister in front of her, she was still a huge difference. She is not willing to give in. Looking at the slim figure under the crystal lamp, Xiaoyu's eyes became increasingly gloomy. Xiaoling hummed softly, walked to the dressing table, picked up a silver comb, and combed her long hair. Suddenly, I saw someone standing behind me in the reflection of the mirror. Yeah, she was startled and turned around. Xiaoyu, you scared me to death, she couldn't help but scolded when she saw the person behind her clearly. In just a short moment, Xiaoyu had already restrained her resentful expression and put on an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, sister, I forgot to knock on the door, and I didn't expect to scare you. Did you have a smooth journey from China? As he spoke, he naturally walked to Xiaoling's side. Xiaoling relaxed and smiled. It went well. Brother Pei heard that I was coming and asked the housekeeper to me. He really wants to take care of everything. Originally, I said that I am already so old and I have no problem flying by myself. Yes, he just couldn't listen and said he wouldn't let me come if I didn't follow his arrangements. It's really annoying. Humbling words of complaint, but there is a hint of sweetness that cannot be hidden in the corners of his eyes and brows. Xiaoyu saw this, and the ants in her heart gnawed at him even more, and said softly, he is always like this, so kind to everyone. When I came, I was escorted by someone, and a doctor and a nutritionist were arranged. She pointed out intentionally or unintentionally that she had more manpower than her sister, trying to make her jealous. Unexpectedly, Xiaoling didn't understand the meaning of her words at all, and laughed heartlessly. Isn't that right? He is so I feel relieved to take care of you, Xiaoyu, you just had an operation and your health is in critical condition, so remember to take a good rest, okay? Xiaoyu lowered her eyes slightly before saying, yeah. The two sisters chatted in the room for a while. At about 7 or 8 o'clock, Chu Chen knocked on the door. Xiaoling, Xiaoyu, the boss is back. In the lobby, I asked you two to change your clothes and go out to eat together. Okay, here we come. Xiaoling was very happy that there would be something to eat soon, and she pulled Xiaoyu downstairs. In the lobby, Pei Xian was sitting on the sofa in the lounge area waiting for them. While waiting, he was talking to someone on the phone. There were faint sounds like activation time limit, no. Make another appointment. And other sporadic sounds. Xiaoling shouted happily, Brother Pei. Pei Ziyan hung up the phone and looked up to see her. His frowned brows relaxed, revealing a very gentle expression. Xiaoling, you are here. How are you along the way? It's good. She naturally sat next to him. It would be better if you didn't send someone to look after me. Pei Ziyan smiled lightly. The housekeeper said that if you ate all the candies on the plane, you would get cavities. I knew he would complain. Xiaoling wrinkled her little nose in dissatisfaction. Even such an action seemed so playful and cute to her. Brother Ziyan Xiaoyu, who was next to him, was able to interrupt at this time and called out softly. In the past few years, without realizing it, she no longer followed her sister in calling him Brother Pei, but replaced her with the more intimate Brother Ziyan. Xiaoling, on the other hand, was completely unaware of such subtle changes. Pei Ziyan raised his head and glanced at her. How are you today? Fortunately, thank you for your concern, Brother Ziyan Xiaoyu said with a little shyness. Pei Ziyan nodded. He only cared about Xiaoyu in a routine way. After getting the expected reply, he turned to look at Xiaoling. Come on, let's go have dinner. What do you want for dinner? Xiaoling said, anything is fine. Xiaoyu, what do you want to eat? Xiaoyu still said softly, I want to eat truffles and foie gras. She knew that there was a French restaurant nearby with a good atmosphere, which was very suitable for laughing softly while tasting red wine and delicious food. Originally, before her sister came here, she planned to go out to eat with Pei Ziyan, but her sister's appearance was really an eyesore. Then let's go eat truffles and foie gras, Xiaoling said with a smile. Change it. It was Pei Ziyan who spoke this time. Huh? Xiaoling looked at him puzzled. Why? Xiaoyu was also puzzled. Pei Ziyan lowered his head and looked at Xiaoling with some fondness. Have you forgotten that the last time you ate foie gras, you said it was the most disgusting food in the world? Xiaoling did remember that she didn't like the taste of foie gras, but, Xiaoyu wants to eat it? Let's go eat Chinese food. Pei Ziyan made the decision. You just got off the plane, eat some Chinese food in case you are acclimated. Xiaoling blinked, but Xiaoyu. Pei Ziyan glanced at Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu felt uncomfortable in her heart, but on the surface, she had to force a smile and say, it doesn't matter to me. I have never had Chinese food in France. It's good to go and try it. Sister, let's go to eat Chinese food. Xiaoling stopped worrying and the three of them went to a nearby Chinese restaurant. The business of the Chinese restaurant was very good. When they walked in, there were many customers sitting inside, many of them Chinese, talking and laughing loudly, and the atmosphere was lively. Look, that little girl is so beautiful. Someone among the diners noticed Pei Ziyan and his group and said to his companion. It's quite beautiful, but it won't make you so excited, another diner said. TCH, who told you to look at the short one? Look at the tall one, with her back to us. Look, she has turned her head. Isn't she beautiful? She's not yet an adult, she will definitely be a stunning beauty in the future. It's really stunning in the world. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1077. Chapter 1077, Differential Treatment Between Sisters. Faintly, there were sounds of admiration coming one after another. Xiaoling has long been used to such compliments. She sat down next to Pei Ziyan with a smile, and pulled Xiaoyu to sit on the other side of her body. The three of us rarely eat together, so we are so happy. Pei Ziyan pampered her and spread the tablecloth for her. Xiaoyu looked at them jealously while laying out her own tablecloth. Her hazy eyes glanced at the empty seat on the other side of Pei Ziyan. Her lips moved slightly, but she still didn't dare to ask for a change. Location. Sitting next to Xiaoling, she could feel all kinds of eyes around her looking at her sister, but she herself was like an invisible person following her sister, without any sense of existence. She had had enough of this. Xiaoling smiled and asked her to order. pushing the thick and beautifully made menu in front of her. She was absent-minded, scanning the pictures and texts on the menu over and over again, but she couldn't read even a single word. All she was thinking about was what happened these days. After her heart disease was cured, the original sallowness and swelling on her face faded away, and she regained her health, and her appearance was also very beautiful. No matter where she went, I heard people praising, "That little girl is so pretty." However, once I'm with my sister, the nightmares from the past come back. No one paid attention to her anymore, as if the beauty she was proud of was just a weak firefly, not enough to compete with the sun and the moon. She hates it so much. Why did Xiaoling come to Paris? Can't you see her having a happy birthday in a few days? She stretched out her hand and ordered a few dishes at random, feeling confused. Xiaoling saw that she had no energy to speak, so she just thought she was weak. She didn't take it seriously and said to Peizian, "Brother Peizian, let's eat quickly. Xiao Yu is a little tired. Eat early and go back to rest early." Peizian said okay gently. Xiao Yu's heart skipped a beat. She actually took in what she said. Is the Xiaoling here specifically to disrupt the situation? She finally found a chance to have dinner with Peizian, but Xiaoling got distracted by just a few words. Not just plugging it in and using it as a light bulb, but also speeding up your meal. Xiao Yu wanted to say something, but stopped talking and smiled weakly. "Sister, I really feel sorry for me. What's the use of protesting now?" Peizian was obedient to his sister and would not listen at all. It would be better to find a chance to be alone with him next time. Xiao Yu ate her meal obediently while thinking about it. Xiaoling smiled and touched her head. "Eat more and grow taller." Sitting on the chair, swaying with his calves, he happily peeled the lobster. Peizian took it and peeled it for her carefully. "You are still saying that others are so short." "I'm still growing." She refused to accept it and protested in a low voice. With a smile in her eyes, Peizian put the peeled lobster meat into her bowl. "I am 16 years old. I will be 17 next year. What else is there to grow? Last time I went to the training camp to see you, I saw you. All the students in the class are taller than you, and if you continue like this, you won't even be able to find someone with the perfect stage height difference." "Humph," she refused, biting the lobster angrily, and after a while, she added, "They are all vying to play with me, and they are all willing to be in the wrong position. This is charm." Peizian smiled gently and continued to peel the lobster for her. "I will grow again," she said, taking several bites of lobster meat. "I will." "Do you really want to grow taller?" "Because." She suddenly turned her head and looked at him with bright eyes. "Because Brother Pei, you are very tall. If I can match you with the perfect stage height difference, I will definitely turn heads when I go out in the future." The ding sound was the spoon in Xiao Yu's hand accidentally hitting the edge of the cup and plate. Peizian's eyes became dark, and he looked at the girl beside him and said nothing for a while. Does she know what she's talking about? Is the height difference between him and me perfect for the stage? Is it just a whim or? "Sister is joking again," Xiao Yu said with a pale expression. She forced a smile and said, "The difference in stage height is because of being on stage. It's for the audience to see that Brother Pei is not an artist, he is engaged in big business." "Sister, how can you use the standards of an artist to ask Brother Pei? Besides, it's time to finalize your appearance at the age of 16, and you can't grow that tall." Her voice floated faintly in the air. Xiaoling was a little frustrated, but more stubborn. "I can grow that tall." Clenched his little fists and looked at Peizian again. "Brother Pei, do you think so?" "Why?" Peizian asked in a deep voice. "Huh," she blinked. "Why do you want to match me for a perfect stage height difference?" "I like walking with you," Xiaoling smiled without any hesitation. "Since we are going to walk together, we must look the best and look the best, and our heights must be coordinated, don't you think so?" That's all? Pei Zion felt a little empty and at ease in his heart. An emotion that even he couldn't explain spread over him, gently tickling his heart like a feather. Over the years, this feather-like emotion had appeared countless times. He didn't know what it was, and it made him a little irritated. He lowered his head and continued to peel the shrimp for her. He was a little absent-minded and cut his hand on the shrimp shell. Xiaoling made a fuss and called the waiter, got a band-aid and insisted on putting it on him. He watched in silence as she awkwardly wrapped the band-aid around his finger, a small patch, which looked a little funny. Okay, she felt a sense of accomplishment and clapped her hands, this way the wound will heal faster. Brother Pei, please stop peeling the shrimps. I'm full. Let's eat the after-dinner fruit. Her clear voice echoed in the restaurant. Pei Zion looked at her smile under the light, his heartbeat a little irregular. Xiaoyu looked at Pei Zion, her expression paled again, and she felt depressed and unhappy. What's so delicious about fruit? He pressed Xiaoling's hand that was ringing the bell and said, Xiaoyu is tired. I asked the driver to take her back to the hotel, and then I took you to an ice cream shop by the Seine River. The ice cream is delicious. Wow, really, she likes to eat ice cream the most, and her eyes sparkled when she heard this. Pei Zion smiled, of course hearing that she was coming. He asked Chu Chen early to find out what delicious and fun places there were in Paris, especially her favorite amusement parks and ice cream shops, which he already knew very well. Xiaoyu's heart ached like a knife. She recalled that when she first arrived in Paris, although Pei Zion arranged for her subordinates to receive her attentively, he never asked her what she liked to eat, let alone took her anywhere. This is differential treatment. I'm not tired yet, she said pitifully, hoping to go eat ice cream with them. When she thought of her sister being alone with Pei Zion, the flames of jealousy in her heart were like burning people to ashes. There is another chapter tonight, still writing, will be posted later. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1078. Chapter 1078 Mermaid Under the Moonlight. But Pei Zion also said, you are tired. He ordered people to take Xiaoyu back to the hotel and took Xiaoling to the ice cream shop. The cool breeze is blowing by the Seine River, and the candlelight and night interweave into a dream-like scene. Xiaoling was in high spirits and ordered many kinds of ice cream, which was piled on the table for both of them. Pei Zion was afraid that she would eat too much, so he only allowed her to eat a little bit of everything. However, after she ate 8 or 9 kinds of alcoholic ice cream, she felt slightly tipsy and looked at the man in front of her with blurred eyes. Brother Pei. She called inarticulately, I still want. You're so drunk, don't eat any more. His low and gentle voice came. He called the waiter to pay the bill, and he half supported and half carried her back to the car. The car drove smoothly to the hotel, and he effortlessly picked her up, held her hand through the lobby, got into the elevator, and arrived at the floor where they were staying. The floor was very quiet, just the two of them, and the chandeliers decorated the corridor beautifully. Xiaoling was still a little drunk and shook off Pei Zion's hand. I can walk. She staggered a few steps along the pattern of the carpet. She seemed to find it fun and jumped a few more times. Pei Zion wanted to step forward to help her, but this little girl had a really bad drinking capacity and was so drunk that people were caught off guard. Unexpectedly, his cell phone rang without warning. Pei Zion stopped where he was and picked up the phone. It was Chu Chen calling. It was business. There was new progress in a large project they were negotiating. The situation was a bit complicated. Chu Chen suggested that he meet with several key leaders in person immediately. Formulate new policies. He said, okay, you prepare the information first, I will come over now. As he spoke, his eyes were still fixed on the swaying girl not far away. The girl jumped a few more steps along the pattern of the carpet. When she turned around and saw that he hadn't followed, She staggered back and grabbed the corner of his clothes with some dissatisfaction. "Brother Pei, let's play together." Looking very childish. Pei Zion smiled and gently touched her soft long hair. "Brother Pei has to go to a meeting now. You go back to your room and go to bed. Can we play together again tomorrow?" She tilted her head, not satisfied. "Let's play together. Be good." He gently pulled her hand away from his clothes. Xiaoling was unhappy and snorted, "Brother Pei is so annoying." She turned around and walked forward angrily. After walking a few steps, she turned back and said, "Give me the room card." Both of them had their room cards on Pei Zion. Before Pei Zion could say anything, Xiaoling staggered forward and dug into his pocket, taking out both cards. "Not for you," she smiled slyly, with a touch of blush on her delicate jade cheeks. She was so drunk that she shook the card in her hand. She turned around proudly, hummed a song, and jumped up and down. Tiao walked away crookedly. Pei Zion didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he let her go. In the evening, he asked the person at the service desk to get a new card. Chu Chen called him several times on the phone. Boss. Jason is in a hurry and has sorted out several possible plans. Waiting for your decision. Do you think Plan A or Plan C is suitable?" This was a serious matter involving a large sum of money. Pei Zion took his eyes away from the girl, turned around, and while explaining something to Chu Chen on the phone, he pressed the elevator and went downstairs. Xiaoling took 2 room cards and wandered to the door of the room. She swiped one swipe first, but it didn't work. Then she swiped another one, and the door opened in response. "I'm so exhausted." She staggered into the door and inserted the key card into the card slot. Nothing was inserted in the hazy state, and both key cards fell to the ground. "It's so dark," she muttered. She flicked the light switch a few times and left it alone. The curtains were drawn in the room, and there was no light. Only the direction of the bathroom revealed a hazy silver glow. This is a 5-star luxury hotel. In the 24-story presidential suite, even the bathroom takes up 2 entire walls of floor-to-ceiling windows, right next to the built-in bathroom. Next to the bathtub, the silver moonlight shines in through the one-way glass, making it as beautiful as a dream. Xiaoling walked in unsteadily, her consciousness still not quite clear. She followed her instinct and filled the bathtub with water. She took off her clothes and crawled in using her hands and feet. The warm water spread and surrounded her little by little. The girl's delicate white body stretched gently under the moonlight, her neck slightly raised like a swan, and the small hills were so beautiful. She is more like a perfect fairy now than when she first came to Pei's house 4 years ago. She relaxed in the gentle waters, slowly closed her eyes, and fell asleep. "I don't know when I will wake up." I seemed to hear the door opening outside, and then there was a rustling sound. Hadstead, she thought drowsily, her eyelids moved slightly, but they were too heavy to open. Who is coming?" He felt lazy all over and had no strength at all. There was another sound, this time closer. It seemed that the bathroom door was opened, and a few seconds later, the lights came on. The soft orange light hit her thin eyelids, which made her feel a little uncomfortable. She moved and muttered softly, turn it off. The lights are still on." The surroundings were quiet again and there was no sound. Xiaoling felt more and more uncomfortable. She covered her eyes with her hands and stretched her white limbs like a beautiful mermaid. As she moved, the soft sound of water could be heard in her ears. She turned sideways, became more conscious, and muttered dissatisfiedly again, turn off the light." As soon as I finished speaking, I suddenly remembered something. Isn't she taking a shower in the bathroom? How could someone break in? Xiaoling was startled and woke up from the shock. She opened her eyes and half sat up from the bathtub. Turning around, what she saw was the man standing at the door. He was tall, handsome, and had a familiar figure. He was looking at her motionlessly. His eyes were deep and focused on her. There was some emotion hidden in them that she couldn't understand. It was so strong that it made her instinctively afraid. She was so frightened that she forgot all her reactions, and even forgot that she was standing in front of him without any clothes. She just looked at him like this, her whole body stiff and motionless. Pei also looked at her. He knew he shouldn't look at it. At this time, he should turn around immediately and hold the door for her like a gentleman. But he couldn't do it, he couldn't even move his eyes. When he just came in, he was caught off guard and saw her like a mermaid perched in half the clear water. She was so mysterious and beautiful, and the feeling was very shocking. His breathing was tight, and he felt a heat rising up and spreading throughout his body uncontrollably. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1079. Chapter 1079. Chapter 1079 Goblin. There was silence all around. The two of them looked at each other quietly like this. It seemed that only a short moment had passed, and a long time of light years had passed. Pei Xian walked toward her step by step, as if he was trapped, bent down, and reached out to touch her cheek gently. The slightly rough fingertips touched her smooth skin, and she trembled slightly. Her heart seemed to be in her throat, but she still did not dare to move. The soft bathroom light reflected her delicate face, and her butterfly-like eyelashes fluttered slightly, a little fragile and a little flinching. Through her crystal pupils, he could see his own shadow reflected in them. His fingers wandered along her cheeks, and like a man possessed, he lifted her chin, lowered his head, and covered her lips as soft and thin as petals. Her eyes widened suddenly, and her mind went blank. All the sounds, lights, and shadows left her. Only the touch on her lips was so real, so real. She was overwhelmed. Her mind was in chaos, as if there were thousands of voices screaming no and no. She didn't want to surrender like this, so she took advantage of the moment when their lips and teeth separated, raised her hand and slapped him hard. A crisp sound. Both of them were stunned for a moment. His expression regained its clarity for a moment, as if it was only now that he could see clearly who the person he was pinning was and what he was doing. Through the thin layer of clothing, he could feel her whole body trembling. The fairy-like girl looked at him with a pale face, tears stained all over it. She looked at him tremblingly for a brief moment, then jumped up like a frightened rabbit and ran out of the bathroom desperately. Oh my God, what has he done? Pei Xian slowly sat up from the edge of the bathtub, stretched out his hands, and covered his face. There was a loud clang sound outside the bathroom door. Pei Xian stood up immediately, and opened the bathroom door suddenly without caring about his mess. They saw Xiaoling falling naked near the entrance. She seemed to be in severe pain and couldn't get up for a long time. She was still so beautiful that his eyes became dim again. He forced himself not to think about things he shouldn't think about. He took 2 steps forward and reached out to help her up. Don't come over, she was so scared that her voice changed its tone. She shrank back and hit the door behind the entrance, making another loud noise. He looked down at her and stopped moving. She was so frightened that she didn't dare to move. She curled up little by little and covered the center of her body with her white and soft limbs. The bathroom light flowed softly, and a hazy light fell on her huddled in the corner of the entrance, making her look like a fragile little animal, helpless and confused. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1080. Chapter 1080, Shocked. Pei Xian felt the heat in his lower abdomen again, and the rain was about to come. He suddenly turned away and stopped looking at her. He took a few steps back to the bathroom and pulled off a towel for her. A white bath towel with a rough texture fell on her. She was startled and raised her head to look at him. But only his back was seen striding into the shadows deep in the suite until he disappeared. She was stunned for 2 seconds, then she wrapped the bath towel carefully and ran out of the guest room as if running away. It was still late at night, and the corridor was silent. Xiaoling then realized that she had gone to the wrong room. Her room was obviously next door. She was a little drunk when she came back and used Pei Xian's room card to open Pei Xian's door. Her face was as red as fire, and she pushed the door of her room in a daze. After pushing it twice but not opening it, she remembered that she had forgotten her room key card with Pei Xian. What to do? Shall we go back and get it? Pei Xian's eyes that were burning with desire appeared in front of her again, and she was trembling. She couldn't imagine what the consequences would be if she turned back again. Go to the service desk for help? She lowered her head and looked at her body, which was still dripping with water and only wrapped in a bath towel. She really didn't have the courage to walk through the long corridors and elevators to explain this matter to others. Light rain. Lonely and helpless, she suddenly thought of her sister. Xiao's room is at the other end of the corridor. It would be great if I could spend one night at her place and find some clothes to change into. She trembled and knocked on Xiaoyu's guest room door. After a long time, Xiaoyu opened the door with a sleepy look on her eyes. Seeing Xiaoling in a panic at the door, she was startled. Sister? How did you do this? Xiaoling didn't know how to explain it, so she entered the room and curled up on the sofa. Xiaoyu looked at her quietly and saw that her exposed skin was covered with bruises. Some looked like bruises or scratches, while others, Xiaoyu squinted her eyes slightly, feeling that something was fishy. She poured a glass of warm water for Xiaoling. Drink some. Xiaoling took it and took a sip mechanically. The warm feeling gradually spread through her stomach and throughout her limbs. She finally relaxed a little and no longer hugged herself tightly. Do you have any clean clothes? She asked. Xiaoyu gave her one of her suspenders. The two sisters are 16 and 13. Although they are only 3 years apart, they are still growing taller. Except for this kind of unflattering suspender skirt, Xiaoling cannot wear anything else. She watched her sister loosen her bath towel and reveal her smooth body, still covered in scars, which was shocking. Xiaoyu's eyes flashed with deep thought. Xiaoling changed into her suspender skirt and felt it was a little short, but she had to make do with it. She said to her sister, Xiaoyu, can I sleep here with you for one night today? Xiaoyu smiled and said, Sister, since when have you been so polite to me? What's the difference between being here and being here with you? Let alone sleeping for one night, I don't have any problem even if you sleep for 10 nights. Xiaoling said, Fortunately, I have you. Xiaoyu took out the spare pillows and blankets from the cabinet in the guest room, spread them on the side of the big bed for her, and asked, What happened? Sister, tell me, otherwise I will be very worried about you. Xiaoling hesitated, recalling everything that had just happened. She couldn't help but tremble a little. Is it scary? Xiaoyu sat down next to her at some point and asked softly. Xiaoling lowered her head and waited for a long time before saying, I don't know either. What just happened was so thrilling that it scared her almost crazy. However, now that she was out of danger, her heart was in chaos. Pei Xian's eyes were staring at her deeply. What lingered in her heart was the touch on her lips, the feeling of his hands caressing her skin. She didn't know what was wrong with her, her face was burning, and it seemed like her whole body was burning. Sister, are you sick? Xiaoyu asked, reaching out to touch her forehead. I don't. Xiaoling avoided it in a panic. Then what happened? Xiaoyu was very patient, looking at her with sincerity and concern. Sister, you have never been like this before. Do you know that I am really worried about you? We have been sisters since we were little. We two depend on each other for life, What should I do if something happens to you? Nothing will happen to me. Xiaoling forced a smile and comforted her sister. You lied, Xia Yugzun burst into tears. Look at how you look now, how can I rest assured? Sister, no matter what happened in the past, you would tell me, but now you don't want to say it because you are annoying me. It's nothing, Xiaoling said anxiously. Xiao, don't think so wildly, it's not like this. What kind of thing is that? Xiaoyu asked. Xiaoling bit her lip and fell silent again. Xiaoyu held her hand and said sincerely, Sister, I'm already this old, and you've been taking care of me all these years. I don't want to be your scapegoat. I also want to help you solve your problems. If you have anything, you can tell me, isn't it good for us sisters to discuss it? I can help you come up with an idea. Her gentle words finally touched Xiaoling. Xiaoling sighed silently, hesitated, and told her sister hesitantly what had just happened in Pei Xian's room. As he spoke, his face became redder and redder. So I ran out later. Her voice was as light as a mosquito. Xiaoyu was horrified by what she heard. No matter how imaginative she was, it would be difficult for her to think of such a thing at the age of 13. However, today's girls develop early, and she is not ignorant about the affairs of men and women. An indescribable feeling arose in her heart, like sharp thorns piercing her. So, will Brother Xian be attracted to his sister? Will they, in the future? No, it won't happen, she will never let this happen. Brother Xian cannot like his sister more than her, absolutely not. Xiaoyu's expression changed again and again. When she looked up again, she had returned to her kind and considerate sister. She sighed and said, I didn't expect Brother Xian to be such a person. Sister, you must stay away from him in the future. Now that you have grown up, you should pay more attention to the differences between men and women, no more than when you were a child. Xiaoling nodded, I was too stupid this time and walked into the wrong room. She blushed again as she spoke. What would Brother Pei think of her? Do you think she did it on purpose? When she thought of this, she felt ashamed and embarrassed, and she wanted to dig a crack in the ground and burrow down. Xiaoyu said, Are you still living with Brother Pei now? Over there in the villa. Take this opportunity to move out when you go back, otherwise something will happen sooner or later. She has always been jealous of her sister and Pei Xian living so close together. Just a bedroom separated by a screen, how can people not be jealous? She had long been thinking carefully about how to break them up, and now she had the right opportunity. End of this chapter.